And welcome back, everybody. You are watching Border Kingdoms Adventures, but today we are being masked as Madison D&D. This is a series that we've got with Madison D&D, highlighting the show coming up, 20 Sided Tavern, that has come off Broadway and is heading to Chicago. And so we are going to be talking about 20 Sided Tavern here today with Diego Salinas, one of the actors that is going to be performing there. And we're going to talk about the show, the coming run in Chicago, Dungeons and Dragons, and everything adjacent to all the things that we all know and love. Welcome, Diego. Uh,
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, so much for having me. I'm very, very excited to chat with you.
Excellent, excellent. So, from what I have heard from the production company and from going through all of your socials and whatnot, you are a Dungeons and Dragons player. You are an actor, and you are a professional dungeon master. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your journey in Dungeons and Dragons, dungeon mastering, and how it's led you to here?
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons found me in high school. I think I was like 15 or 16, and it's almost like the kind of the classic way to get into D&D because my friend in the theater department, his dad had like all of like the source books and all like the original stuff. I think at the time we were starting out. I can't quite remember. I think it might have been 3.5 or fourth edition. But he kind of corralled us all into his basement, lured us in with pizza, and we started playing D&D together. My first ever like game was in the Dark Sun campaign setting,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've been chasing that high ever since. From that point on, I was just really mainly a player in high school. It wasn't until I got to college that I started wanting to dabble in DMing, kind of the classic thing, right? I really wanted to play, no one else knew how to do it, and I was like, well, I guess I've seen a character sheet more times than anyone else here, so let me try and steer everyone into this adventure. And it was fun. I kind of got a couple games in there. Discovered a lot more of like the online D&D community. Matt Colville's videos were very, very helpful in helping me start to develop my DMing philosophy. After college, I kind of didn't have a lot of time to play D&D, but it wasn't until COVID that I really like dove back into it. March came around, the lockdown started, and all of my acting work, all of my live event work dried up. And I was sitting there kind of like in second or third week of lockdown, and my wife said, why don't you, put up a listing on Fiverr or something and see if anyone wants you to run a D&D game. And I put up a listing. A week or two after that, a group reached out to me from California, and we ended up playing together about every other week for the better part of a year and a half. And from there, I was really able to start getting into the weeds of like my DMing philosophy and kind of all the different iterations that went through. This whole time, of course, I've been working as an actor. I've been improvising since I was in high school as well. So in 2024, when the audition came around for Dungeons and Dragons and 20 Sided Tavern, at this point it was for its off Broadway run. And I'd seen the show once before when it had come to Chicago previously, back before it had the official licensing with
Mm-hmm.
Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. So I'd like kind of stay tuned and made sure I was following the show for any new developments. And then when the auditions came around, I jumped right into it. Was so excited to get that call back. And then after I booked it, I had like 2 weeks to get ready, packed up all my stuff, and moved to New York for a year and some change. And now I'm here, getting ready for the tour. We're currently in Washington, D.C. right now.
Yep.
We just finished up in Kentucky a little bit ago, and we're heading to Chicago very, very soon. So I'm really excited to bring the show back to the place where I discovered it, in Chicago at the Broadway Playhouse.
Yeah. I can tell you that I have seen clips through some of the various special guests that had were on the rotating cast. Neil Newbon obviously put up some things on TikTok, there was the stint that Jacques Z Whipper was on there, and
Yes.
I saw it through there because much to the disbelief of my grandchildren, I am on TikTok. They also don't believe I'm a Twitch affiliate either, so we'll take that how it is. But yes, we saw kind of the that because you had said you had done improv for a long time, and that was the one thing that uh, caught me is the improv nature of of the clips that I've seen. And for those that are watching this that haven't noticed it, I would describe it as kind of a cross between a D&D live show and Whose Line Is It Anyway, because you've got some impact
Absolutely.
into the effects that happen. Um, and at least for the Madison D&D folks, the ones that have listened to me talking about dungeon mastering and training up new dungeon masters coming up, because that is the thing, kind of your experience of wanting to play but nobody else was running, is that we're always trying to train up new dungeon masters because of
Yes.
dealing with DM burnout and whatnot. But I've told people that the in my opinion, the greatest tool in a DM's toolbox is improv, because
Hmm.
as the person that taught me how to DM, you know, 35, 40 years ago, used to say to me, no adventure survives first contact with players, because you can plan up all you
Absolutely.
want, and yeah, they're gonna go left instead of right, and then bam, you've got to make it up on the fly.
I was
So,
looking through some of my old like notes for like some of the very first like paid games that I was doing, the very first paid campaigns. And the way I had like my notes, like so like this is what you smell, and this is what you hear, and this is what you see, and this is what you taste, and all this, that, and the other, all written down and color coded and color coordinated. And I just think back to like when I was running that, I was like, oh my God, I was just so overwhelmed by the text. And now, like, especially after having, doing the show for over a year, I really like have so fully integrated my improv experience into my DMing style in a
yeah,
way that I don't think I was even aware to do before I joined 20 Sided Tavern. Because yeah, you're right. You have to roll with the punches because not only are you going to get the randomness of whatever your players want to do, but once you start factoring in the randomness of the dice, like you have to be ready to be flexible and malleable and kind of move things around
yeah,
in your head.
very much so, very much so. I did it a lot as we first started Adventures League, because Adventures League started off with fifth edition, so 11
Hmm.
years ago. And once we got to what was lovingly referred to as season four, otherwise known as Curse of Strahd, then the improv definitely had to come out, especially in Death House.
Yeah.
I considered it a personal mission to make sure at least one character in any party I ran through Death House was altered by the end of that. Uh, and it helped that American Horror Story. Uh, God, I forget what season was that. Was that my? Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it was like season one or season two, like one of the early ones, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it helped out to give that gothic feel to it, because I was already watching it and consuming that kind of media, so my head was in that mind space. Um, but definitely, it sounds like a good experience to even alter your dungeon mastering from that point forward. Um,
100%.
so in this iteration of it that you're going to be doing, which I'm assuming was probably going to be the same as the one that you're doing there in Washington D.C. Which role are you taking on in Twenty Sided Tavern?
Yeah, so we've actually moved into more of an ensemble model for the tour, whereas off Broadway we had kind of like the main cast and our cast of swings who were there. This time around, since everyone knows pretty much every role at this point, we're really just mixing and matching. Off Broadway, I started out as what was originally called the rogue cohort and then became the trickster cohort, and now we're calling it Team Mischief.
Mm-hmm.
The guy in green. I started in green there and transitioned to red, what we now call the Might cohort. Um, but over the time there, I also learned how to do the our magic cohort as well as dungeon mastering, which was a really great big honor for the show. I think my first DM show with Twenty Sided Tavern was, I think, almost exactly a year since we like opened off Broadway, which was very, very meaningful for me. And I'm actually about to do my first DM debut on tour this Friday, August 1st. Um, so it's really cool how the show has evolved. Whereas I think before we were a little bit more rigid in our
Mhm.
roles, aside from our swings, who were tasked with knowing like pretty much every single role. Now there's so much flexibility and malleability that you're getting combinations on stage, like between different performers and the roles that they play and the unique way that they play those roles. It's like a whole new permutation of the show has been unlocked that even folks who may have seen the show once, twice, 10 times off Broadway, if you catch us again, you're almost guaranteed to see a lineup that you haven't seen before.
Yeah, that was something that Anjali Bhamani had talked about as well, and I had said that that sounds basically like an incredibly direct permeation of Dungeons and Dragons, because no matter how many times you've run through a particular hardcover, a particular module, a particular campaign, you get a different dungeon master running it, it's going to be differently. If you get a different group of
Absolutely.
people, it's going to play differently.
Yeah.
So mhm.
One thing that really makes me excited, like, hearing from folks who come and see the show is when folks say how authentically we are able to capture that around the table feeling in a 500, 800, 1200 like seat theater. And I think that, like you said, it really is because of, even though, the adventure, the module might be the same, all that interstitial stuff, all the story, the real meat of it is just affected by who's on stage, what the dice want us to do,
Mhm.
and even like, what the audience, like, because they're screaming and shouting stuff at us, and we're taking that in and redirecting that lightning and putting it into the show.
Yep.
So it's really, really a show that's truly, truly alive in every sense of the word.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and I can't even wait to experience it in person. The way that you're describing it, obviously, is going to draw in those that are D&D fans or veterans, even if they're just new players or just people that are fans of watching actual play.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I can tell from experience is that non-gamers alike will also be interested in this, because my wife, who I tried to teach Dungeons and Dragons to 35 years ago, when before we got married, it did not take. Pokemon Go took, but D&D did not take. But even she's excited to go to see the show with me as it comes to Chicago here. So um,
I think that's a real strength of the show. It's a good like ambassador for the game. It's a good ambassador for the hobby because, like if you wanted to explain to someone how to play like basketball, like it's easier to teach them like by showing them a basketball game or playing the basketball
yep.
game itself rather than like talking them through the rules. And I think this, much like Baldur's Gate 3 did, which I think has also been obviously huge for the hobby and the community. It just gives you like a clear visualization of like what a game could look like. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because we do get a ton of folks who have never seen the show, like knowing about Dungeons and Dragons is not a prerequisite to see the show. You
Yeah.
can come in like off the street, not even knowing how many sides a D20 has. Like
Right.
and once you see it like up on stage, it really starts to make sense. Like, okay, I can kind of see, the dungeon master sets up a scenario, the players interact with it, the dice rolls happen. I mean, like my parents, my grandparents too. It's been like it's always so hard when like folks ask me like, "Oh, dear, like what do you do?" And I always have to start off with, "Do you know what Dungeons and Dragons is?" And then kind of take them through the whole thing. Where I wish I could obviously just be like, "Here's a ticket. Come on in, watch it. You'll understand, and you'll probably, hopefully, be obsessed with it by the end."
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can tell you that we've from the local community here, we have new people coming in all the time that want to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and it's kids, adults, people that are in my age bracket, otherwise known as the ARP bracket. Even some of those people who have never lost that imagination, that sense of whimsy. They kind of want to, like, hey, you sit around and you tell stories together. That sounds awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it is a as you said, excellent ambassador into leading people into what role playing is, because in addition to just the fact that you get friends, you get community, there's incredible benefits to it that have been proven time and time again from people with PhDs and who are much smarter than I am.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with PTSD, neurodivergency, any of those types of issues that are very internal, role playing has helped for dealing with that externally and making your life
Hmm.
better, your quality of life better. So definitely an excellent ambassador into the gameplay. Um, you come from it. Well, you touched on this a little bit. So you've come from a standpoint of being a player, being a dungeon
Hmm.
master, and being a performer. Um, what what strengths have has your TTRPG experience brought to your performance in 20 Sided Tavern?
Oh, I think there's it was really nice kind of coming into this process with such like a firm understanding of like the rules. Obviously, like for the show that we're doing, it's very theatricalized and stylized. For example, like when our one of our characters casts magic missile, we have to roll to hit just to kind of keep things engaging, keep it
Mm-hmm.
theatrical, keep it going. Similarly, I think that my having coming in with such like a strong background in the rules and the mechanics of it all really gave me the freedom to focus on the characters and focus on the the improv, and then using that as a springboard to start bending the rules and getting really creative with it. We have a ton of really like creative folks like William Champion, who is a cast member with Dungeons and Dragons: The 20 Sided Tavern. He is the first one who will offer up a blood magic sacrifice to try and do some crazy story thing. So it's been really fun, kind of, because I feel like before, when I was kind of first starting out, like playing and DMing, I was very like much a rules as written guy, and kind of started from that foundation and then found rules as intended and rule of cool. So with Dungeons and Dragons 20 Sided Tavern, it's we while we do have a foundation of mechanics, there is so much more openness for the rule of cool. And personally, as like in my own personal like play and dungeon mastering style, I think that the most important thing for a campaign is consistency. Not only consistency and like, we're gonna play this game like every other week or once a month
Right.
or whatever, but also consistency in the application of the rules and the consistency of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to be able to get really crazy and get really zany and maybe even just like completely depart from the rules of not only Dungeons and Dragons but the version of Dungeons and Dragons that we play in the show. Once you start to depart from that, but you make it matter by keeping it consistent within that show, within that session, within that game, that's, I think, where we can really shine and just show like kind of the real potential of what you can do in this game, right? Because we're all experienced players, because we're all very skilled improvisers. There's a lot of trust that happens here. So,
Right.
no one's gonna pull out the like kill a bad guy with one touch sword at the beginning of the show, because
Mm-hmm.
we also have that understanding of dramatic structure and whatnot. But there is so much trust and play that we've allowed ourselves to experience on stage, that's been encouraged by our director Michael Fell, that we really can kind of just take the old improv adage, if this is true, what else is true, and just
Mm-hmm.
run with it to the moon.
Excellent, excellent. So you will shock some of our community members here because as an organized play setting, organized play has to exist off of rules as written so that you have that consistency from table to table. And trust me, I hammer that home all the time with the dungeon masters. But if I'm running something that is not organized play, I definitely feel that the rule of cool is kind of king because it leads to a much more uh, satisfying experience for a role player
Absolutely.
to have some sort of contribution into the story that gets fed
Yes.
back to you. So yes, that is an excellent way of putting it, and I definitely was thinking that the show would be almost 100% rule of cool. What's going to make for a good story, kind of a thing. So
Exactly.
good to hear. And I will be sure to berate anybody that screams out "Magic Missile always hits." So
Oh, don't worry. You'll scream at them, and we'll scream at them too from on stage. That's one of the things that's really great about this show is like there is no fourth wall. Like we want it to feel like everyone's around the table. So every now and then, like and thankfully, like our audiences are always very like respectful. Even when they're super energetic, we'll like shout out, or sometimes we'll get like the rules lawyering because we have this thing in the show. Like not to spoil too much, we have this thing called the chaos chart, and when you
mhm,
roll on it, kind of like a wild magic table, something zany happens that's like impacting the show. And sometimes it could be something where like a character is given a new name, or maybe their next role is going to be instead of rolling a d20, it's going to be a game of rock paper scissors. And we'll be like getting into it because I mean on stage we're like we're moving, we're bouncing off of each other, and then we're coming up on the next roll, and then the audience starts rolling rock paper scissors, and then we're all like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. And like we take that, we welcome that feedback. We want that energy, not just coming out from us into the house, but coming from the house into our game, and reminding us of the things that we forget. But so it's like there's. I love that this show is about dialogue, not just between the people on stage, but between the audience and the performers as well. And they can correct us, or they can,
yep.
sometimes they'll be like, "We want to do another re-roll." It was like, "Sorry, no, you can't, because you can't re-roll the DM."
Yep. So you had said earlier that you have done a stint as the dungeon master on this show.
Mhm.
How does the show work differently for you as a dungeon master versus as a player on the cast?
Yeah, I really love DMing this show. Just speaking like purely from like my improv background, like there's I really enjoy being able to support my fellow scene partners in an improv scene. And one thing that I've over the years of my professionally dungeon mastering, I've really enjoyed having that kind of authority. Because the dungeon master, as collaborative as D&D is, like the dungeon master does occupy that place of arbiter, of referee, of the processing unit of the
Mhm.
world. So it's really rewarding just when I'm around a regular table to be able to support the ideas that my players offer up. Now, when you blow that up and bring it on stage, I really take a lot of joy in making the story as unique as possible to the events of that day. There will be some times where like a player might mention like just say something casually as a throwaway, and I'll like latch onto that and I'll like support it, lift it up, and put a spotlight on it so we can like build off of it. So when I'm DMing the show, it's really about kind of keeping that energy up, keeping the pacing going, because at the end of the day, we have to have the show done by a certain time.
Yeah.
But being able to make the story as rich as possible to make whatever crazy idea happen. And also as the dungeon master, I get to play a bunch of different characters like in one show, as opposed to kind of having to be my one character that the audience chose for me that day. So there's a lot of fun in being able to kind of tease out not only just crazy zany moments, but also paint the world in a way that is meaningful and impactful. So I think that's what I really enjoy about like DMing for the show is just having that opportunity to yes and anything that happens, because at the end of the day like kind of the DM kind of decides where that spotlight is going on the
Hmm.
moments, and can really just uh whenever I hear something that's just absolutely genius and brilliant and beautiful that one of the players says, like I just want to be like yes, okay, we're okay, like this is one of the things. One of the last shows I was DMing in New York, the players came in and were like, it was very like MMORPG coded. They were like, the quest icon said we were supposed to be here in the tavern. And then someone else was like, yeah, but I can't see it on my heads up display. And then our third player walked on and was like as if they were moving through molasses, and they were like, sorry guys, I'm picking up every rock and shovel and bucket, encumbered. And then immediately I knew, this is the game. This show of 20 Sided Tavern is the one where it's actually just a bunch of people playing online and kind of going through the game. So it was very like video game coded. My favorite moment from that show was like towards the end, where because we've been teasing this whole thing out. It's been very meta, very video gamey, very
Mm.
in that vein. And then in a moment that like we're fighting the big bad evil guy as the dungeon master, I just took a moment and said, we zoom out right now to three people sitting in different rooms in gaming chairs with headsets on, and then the players immediately snap into it and we're like, guys, I think I'm lagging. Like and then that element of it got folded into it, and that is just so satisfying because the strong choice that my players made at the beginning, they trusted me to catch what they were throwing and then to like continue it, to
Yep.
make it everything, and it was just such. It was probably one of my favorite shows. It was just so tight and funny and silly, and to have that kind of frame narrative around it too was really fun.
Well, our D&D community book club this month is reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it definitely kind of sounds like coded into that lit RPG genre.
Yeah,
So I can get it. I could see that playing out. Sounds excellent, and it sounds like even though that it's a heavily influenced improv, there's a bit more prep that goes into being the DM, because you're kind of the controller of maybe not necessarily the script, but the outline. Kind of like you've got a point A to
yeah,
point B to point C, and you need to get there by the 2 hour mark or hour and a half mark or whatever. And so
correct.
you're the one that's kind of leading that pacing and kind of controlling the chaos that can be any type of D&D game, especially one that is dictated through improv. So
Absolutely. That's where like really that improv and DM background meld, because especially in the context of this show, right? We're trying to keep the energy up, the momentum going. So whenever when I'm DMing and like there's a scene that's happening between the players, bop 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 bop, huge laugh. That's my cue. I need to edit this scene, move us forward, and
mm,
be like, and take that moment to transition and segue to the next thing, which I think is such an important thing too for like being around a regular table with your home game or your community game is like there have been times where like I've been in a game and kind of like you can feel that like the role play scene is kind of just like sputtering out,
mm,
and I think that's one of the things that like I love that this show has like kind of reinforced in my DMing style is like not knowing when to give space to the players and also knowing when to cut them off and move them to the next thing, because not everyone, role playing isn't necessarily the thing that everyone finds the most fun about D&D. Some people might be there for the combat, some people might be there for the lore, some people might be there just because they love the minis and the dice. So it's been really fun kind of taking what I've learned from this show and being able to support people in the games that they hire me to run, by giving them kind of enough space to play, but then also have maintaining that sense of urgency throughout.
yeah, knowing when to move the tempo along to keep things going. Definitely,
Exactly.
definitely. Well, I think that is about all the questions I had. But for people that are watching, especially people in the greater area that might be in the Chicago area that are looking to hire you for some professional DMing, or people that are looking to do it online, where can they find you to book you for a D&D game?
Yeah, you can go and visit my website, foreverdm.xyz. There's a whole contact page. You can reach out to me for like a one shot, online or in person. Also, we can do longer campaigns. And I've recently started offering consultation services. I had a great meeting with a client not too long ago where I just helped them kind of prep for their first big session that they were DMing. and we just got to kind of talk and brainstorm and outline some ideas. And yeah, anything D&D and nerd related, I'm your guy.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, I think that is it for coffee talk for today. So, for those of you out there that want to continue on the conversation, I encourage you to carry on the conversation. I'll give you a topic. Chill touch is neither chill nor a touch. Discuss.
Bro, yes, yes.
Uh,
We're opening up a whole new can of worms right now.
yep. All right. We will all catch you next time.